So we are looking forward to the Hingham Town Meeting on Saturday, June 20 at 2 p.m. And it's taking place outdoors on the football field. Is that correct?
That's correct, Joe.
To the best of your recollection, is this the first time that town meeting is being held outdoors, at least in terms of modern times?
It is. It is. First time, the current health situation indicated that an outdoor meeting would be safer than an indoor meeting. And we have taken every precaution possible to ensure that the meeting can do its work and can do it efficiently in the most safe setting possible. So outdoors was preferable.
And when we look at having this type of legislative body coming together and doing so in terms of socially safe distancing and all, the function of your role as town moderator, what changes, what modifications do you envision having to make?
Wear a mask for the first time, at least the first time as the moderator. Obviously, it's become part of our daily ritual. I think that the challenges, Joe, will be to ensure that the meeting is run efficiently and mindful that it will be a new experience for all those people who partake in the meeting and constitute the legislative body. From my perspective, in terms of presiding over the meeting, I do not anticipate any particular challenges in terms of decision making. We'll have to be careful, of course, to call votes properly and to ensure that the integrity of the meeting is not only apparent, but that the meeting is run in an efficient and orderly way that people continue to have confidence in the meeting itself.
When citizens have a question, they want to speak to an article, how do you envision that occurring in terms of out on the field? Will there be microphones strategically placed where citizens can step to the mic, for example?
There will be. There will be more microphones than we typically would have in the gymnasium or auditorium. The microphones here, the sound engineers are a professional firm that's used to working outdoors. They work frequently for the Hingham schools, overseeing graduation exercises and the like, as well as many other outdoor activities. They are working closely with our health agent, Sue Salvi, to ensure that all appropriate safety measures are taken with regard to sanitizing microphones. We want people to not only be safe, but to feel as if they are safe and that every reasonable precaution has been taken to ensure their health and safety. So plenty of microphones. They'll be sanitized after each use. So if you do approach a microphone, you'll know that it has been sanitized, that appropriate cleaning agents are being used. They're continuing to look at what is appropriate under the EPA standards, as well as those we're more familiar with now from the CDC or the State Department of Public Health. I'm confident that everyone working on this meeting is working overtime to ensure that it will be efficient and safe.
Given that this town meeting will be conducted outdoors, I'm sure there's a sense of how do we conduct this meeting in an as efficient way as possible so as to not be outdoors for long periods of time, give or take the weather itself. That being said, let's talk about the articles in the warrant. And is there any plan on your part to perhaps truncate some of the articles or not?
I have a high degree of confidence that we will be able to address and act upon all of the articles in the warrant that we would typically act upon. As you know, Joe, there are matters where the recommendation of the advisory committee or the determination of the meeting on its own volition is to take no action on an item there, and I assume that there will be such articles. I do not intend simply to propose indefinite postponement on a series of articles, just put them off to another day. I'm confident in the citizens of the meeting coming prepared. I mean, to me, the conduct of the meeting, as in painting a house, you know, putting the paint on is the last thing, and in one sense, the easiest thing you do. It's about preparing. So if we can prepare properly for the meeting, I'd encourage citizens to read carefully the warrant, to think about the advisory committee recommendations on each issue, and come prepared to do our work in the most efficient fashion. If we do that, and I am confident that the citizens will do that, we're in this together, and we need to fulfill our legislative function well and efficiently, I think we can get through the warrant. I will say, Joe, to your specific question, there are some time-saving devices, including not having the moderator go on too long, as I am wont to do, but to basically motor through it without in any way derogating from the integrity of the meeting or its deliberative function. For example, the moderator's message, I suspect what I will do is say the moderator's message is before you. I'll highlight simply a couple of the voting attributes of the meeting and move on. With respect to certain articles that are perennial articles, the Hannah Lincoln Whiting Fund, revolving loan funds, I think we can move through them expeditiously without it seeming to be a tobacco auction.
Let's touch on a couple of the articles, a few of the articles in terms of at least the overview. Which articles do you anticipate a great deal of discussion and perhaps deliberation on?
Well, I'll answer your question a little differently. I'll say which ones will attract the most attention and attract the attention and the thought process prior to the meeting, or the conduct of the meeting remains for the meeting to determine. And when I say the meeting, I mean effectively the legislature, the Congress. The meeting will determine how much time and deliberative focus they wish to give to a given question before the meeting, mindful that articles are in fact questions. Will the town do X? Will the town do Y? I will venture to say that, as with many things, the money issues tend to attract significant attention. So this year, for example, obviously we have the budget, Article 6. This is a time of uncertainty as to state and municipal finances. So I suspect that people will pay particular attention to the spending article that is Article 6. There are also a series of articles in which the town is being asked to consider through the function of the meeting to determine whether to spend money on certain feasibility studies that are attendant to capital projects that are being considered, and that would include, of course, Foster School, the notion of a modified and expanded senior center, the public safety facility that is being contemplated for Lincoln Street, otherwise known as Route 3A, across from the Avalon development at the shipyard. So there are a number of articles that will be asking the question of, will the town spend X or Y or Z? And I suspect that they will get some more attention than whether to accept streets and easements or to once again authorize the building department to have a revolving loan fund.
Are there other articles beyond what you've just touched on that may not get the traction, if you will, because of the fact that we are right now still in the pandemic, because we are outdoors, because we've got big questions about where we stand on the budget going forward? What articles may not necessarily get the attention that perhaps they deserve?
I cannot envision any of the questions properly coming before the meeting that will not have the time and space afforded that particular question to allow for its thoughtful and deliberative resolution. If that were to be the case, then the meeting itself would have fallen short of the expectations of what open town meeting aspires to be, and in Hingham has traditionally been.
Is there a particular number of voters that we need in order to constitute a duly formed legislative body here based on our census?
Yes, actually, it's based on the Hingham bylaw. So in Hingham, we have a town bylaw. We have town bylaws for a number of issues, but one of the elements of our overall municipal bylaw is, or relates to rather, the conduct of town meeting. And we do have a finite number of voters that is required to open the meeting, and that number is 300. For your interest or viewers' interest, if there were to be, and I am fairly confident that there will not be a second session of this year's town meeting, that we will be able to conduct the meeting on Saturday, June 20th, starting at 2 p.m., or in the event of inclement weather the next day, also starting at 2 p.m. on Sunday the 21st. But we do need 300 voters to begin the meeting. If we were to fall short of 300 voters, we could not begin the work of the meeting. So I am exhorting all citizens who are eligible to vote to participate in this year's meeting. The doors will open, if memory serves me correctly, and this can be verified, about an hour and a half. I think it's 12:30, but that will be publicly available widely. To check in early, we are going to have a check-in that allows for proper spacing of voters, contactless computerized check-in. The checkers will be behind a plexiglass screen that we're kind of getting used to seeing in retail shops or coffee shops and the like. And I would like to start the meeting absolutely at the stroke of 2 o'clock. Last year, we had a busy meeting, and we, in fact, were well north of the quorum. The only reason we couldn't start the meeting was it wasn't 7 p.m. yet, and the meeting had been called for 7. So this meeting is called for 2 on the 20th. I'd like to see the quorum comfortably exceeded before 2 o'clock so we can hit the ground running at 2 and do our work in a thoughtful but deliberative fashion, and adjourn the meeting with the business having been done at a reasonable hour.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with our viewers here before we conclude, sir?
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Basically, 3 primary thoughts. Number 1, amidst this pandemic and now the truly unsettling unrest and justifiable anger we're seeing throughout the country, this is an opportunity for us to do it right, to recognize that we do have self-government in Hingham, that the town meeting is the legislative body of the town, and the fact that we can come together as thoughtful people and examine and debate and decide matters of common interest is a great gift. It's not a burden. It's not a hassle. Shouldn't interfere with more important things. This is critically important. And the fact that we have moved the meeting a couple of months, but will have a meeting before June 30th, should remind each of us the critical role that the meeting plays in the civic life of Hingham. Without the meeting authorizing the actions that are ultimately carried out by the school committee, the selectmen, and others, without the meeting's authorization, those things could not happen. You authorize these things to happen. You make these decisions. Second is just to please show up. As Joe asked about the quorum, to show up, to do the work of the meeting, to respond, to think, to not ask for the microphone if it's just a Me Too comment, but certainly not to refrain from using the microphone if you have a question or want to add something that you think will help your fellow voters who constitute the meeting decide. And finally, just to look out for each other at this time, and thank God that we have the opportunity to govern ourselves, and also to thank those people who are making the meeting possible. I play a role on the day of the meeting, really, but it's the people who plan the meeting, the police officers, the town clerk, the checkers, the town administrator, your selectmen, that are really the ones who are making the logistics of the meeting happen. And I'm particularly grateful to each one of them for the role they play in keeping our community, the community that we have come to know and truly to love.
Michael J. Puzo, Hingham Town Moderator. I'm sure and hope that our citizens take great comfort in knowing that your stewardship of this town meeting is going to guide them through a very safe and successful legislative assembly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Look forward to seeing you on June 20, 2 p.m.
Thanks again, Joe. Appreciate the opportunity to address the people.